Hey, it's Derek Hagan here. I'm a financial therapist specializing in meaning in life and mindfulness, here with another money health conversation where we're going to talk about living without goals. It's hard to live in this country or this culture or anywhere in the West without hearing about constant goal setting. Set goals. What are your goals? What are your resolutions? Make sure you've got SMART goals. But I'm here to say goals are not the answer. Goals, they keep you unhappy. They keep you focused on what you don't have. Goals prevent you from living in the present moment. They keep you stuck in the future. And when you're focused on goals, you're missing out on opportunities. We'll talk more about these later. So think about goals as something that you don't have. A goal is something that you don't have that's off in the future. So by focusing on goals, you're constantly thinking about what I don't have. And even if I can close that gap, by focusing on that closed gap, I'm still reminding myself that I'm not at my goal. So a goal, let's define a goal as a very specific target. A very specific target which represents something that you don't have yet or something that is different from today, that is somewhere off in the future. So here you are today, and at some point in the future, that little flag there, that's your goal. And our job, when you set goals, is to do something to get from here to there, to get from where I am today to where I want to be in the future, to achieve my goal. But remember, by setting goals, I'm constantly reminding myself that things should be different than how they are now. If I set goals, I'm effectively saying I am not happy with where things are now, and I need more. I'm not going to be content. I'm not going to be grateful when I set a lot of goals. And when you set, and I talked about this a little earlier, some people call this a benefit of goals. They'll say you get really narrowly focused in and you really focus and put your head down and go after that goal. But what you're doing is you're missing all these other opportunities that exist because I'm too focused on one goal that I miss all these other opportunities. And the reason we set goals is not because we want purpose and direction in our lives. The reason we set goals is because we are scared to death of uncertainty. We are more afraid of uncertainty, of an unknown future or not knowing how things will go than we are of death. We don't want the future that's uncontrollable and unknowable. We don't want that. So what we do is we cut through that uncertainty and we create a goal that we can focus on, and that keeps us distracted. That gives us the illusion that we don't have uncertainty. And even if we miss our goal, we'll say, oh, that's okay, because at least I had some vision of the future that I hoped would happen. Now, here's another problem with goals. It's always shining the light on this tension that exists between now and then. Remember, closing that gap. So if I set a goal, I'm setting a goal for something I don't have, off in the future. So I'm thinking about the future, and I'm taking steps to get there, constantly reminding myself that I don't have that goal yet. But I'll get there. I'll get there, and then maybe at that point I'll finally be happy. So as time goes on, maybe I get closer to my goal, and maybe the tension lessens. But at some point, I'm going to reach that goal. Well, now what? I'm happy for like a short little bit of time. But now the only thing that gave me purpose, the only thing that gave me a sense of direction is gone. So now I have to set a new goal. And by setting a new goal, I've now created more tension. Living with goals is living in a tension state, a state full of tension. And you might be wondering, well, what the hell does that mean? How do I live without goals? I have to have goals. And you might have heard some version of those who don't have any goals, they're not going to end up anywhere. It's that version of the Alice in Wonderland story where she asks the cat, which way do I go? And Alice says, I don't know where I'm going. And he says, doesn't matter which way you go then. That's the scene that often gets quoted and reframed as, you're not going to end up anywhere. But that's not true. Remember, it doesn't matter which way you go if you don't know where you're going. It doesn't mean you're not going to go anywhere. It doesn't mean she's going to sit down at the intersection and waste her life away. So to live without goals, you're still driven by your purpose. You're still driven by your motivation. You're still driven by things that are interesting. You're just detaching from specific outcomes. That goal is a specific outcome at some point in the future. Now, if you could be grateful, because remember, you're content and you're saying things are fine right now, but I can still strive for things. But instead of calling it a goal, I'm going to call it a flag in the ground. I'm going to call it a guess. And then I might even chart a course to get there. And I might start taking meaningful tasks, doing meaningful activities in order to get there. And then time will go by and I'll work that path. But then at some point, there's going to be new information. Maybe my motivations changed. Maybe my interests changed. Maybe my life changed. Maybe even due to something out of my control. But I can change my mind. And getting hung up on, oh man, but I didn't get my goal, would ruin people. Now you get to say, well, guess what? Well, maybe I'm just going to strive for something else. And then I can pivot. And I can go towards this guess number 2 here. And then maybe I change my mind again and I start going towards guess 3. Maybe I took another course that made me think about something else that I wanted to do. And I can follow those forward. And I can live without goals. I can perform systems instead, something I do every day that's likely to make my life better off, instead of focusing on a specific outcome that I'm not likely to meet. You don't need goals. Focus on your systems. Detach from outcomes. You get this one life. Enjoy it. Live intentionally.